Okay, so I'm going to make the study guide answers for you in a couple different parts because otherwise it does not upload to YouTube very easily. So I'm just going to work through some of these problems. This will be part 1, and then I'll stop and then I'll do part 2. So you guys will have seen every problem worked out before you take the exam, starting on Tuesday, December, what day will that be? 17th. Okay, so for this first question, we have the number of apps Sam on his has on his iPhone. Okay, very easy. Write a linear equation that could represent the number of apps Y after months. Okay, X. So our equation is going to start with Y equals, which is pretty obvious. Now we need to find our slope. So it looks like he goes up 4 apps per month. So it's going to be 4x. And then we have to find our y-intercept. So to find our y-intercept, we are going to pretend like we go back 4. So the 10 minus the 4 would give me 6. And then if I go back 1 to get that 0, so my y-intercept is going to be 6 because I just went backwards on the table to find where my x is 0, my y would be 6. Okay. For question 2, more linear equations to represent the tables. So again, we need slope and y-intercept. So my slope for this one looks like it's decreasing by 2 each time. And for this one, it's increasing by 1 each time. So my slope is going to be negative 2x, right? Negative 2 times the x. And then to find my y-intercept again, I'm going to go, well, what would this have had to be? This would have had to be 9, and this would have had to be 0. So it's going to be negative 2x plus 9. That gives me my y-intercept. Same thing for number 3. It looks like I am subtracting 6 each time, and I am adding 1 each time. So my slope is going to be negative 6x. And then again, I'm going to say, well, this going back would be to 0. And then what did I subtract 6 from? Well, I would have subtracted 6 from 3. So it's going to be negative 6x plus 3 for that one. Number 4, we have a customer at a garden shop, bought potting soil and 4 shrubs. This was the total, determine the price of each shrub. Okay, so we know our total price is Y, and they bought 4 shrubs, so we don't know the cost of each shrub. Excuse me. The total is the $53.50, and we know they paid $4 per shrub and bought one-time bag of potting soil for $17.50. So then we would solve for X to find out how much each shrub was. So I would subtract the $17.50 from both sides. And I'm going to get $36 equals the 4x. Divide by 4 on each side. So that tells me that 9 equals x. So that means it was $9 per shrub. Okay, so the y was my total. I replaced that with what they told us the total was, $4 per shrub, which we didn't know, plus the $17.50 for the potting soil. Okay, number 5. We have someone renting a Segway. Cool, right? There's 2 companies. We have a $30 flat fee plus $5 per hour, or a $14 flat fee plus $9 an hour. We're going to figure out when would they be the same. So we're just going to take the information for both companies and set them equal to each other, because that's what we want to know. When would they be the same? So we're going to have 5x plus 30, and that would be Noble, Tucky, R-Us. When will that equal the $9 per hour plus 14, and that is Noble Tours? So when would it not matter, or when would it matter, depending on where you want it to go? So I'm going to solve this. would subtract 5x from both sides. Now I have 30 equals 4x plus 14. Subtract 14. 16 equals 4x. So I have 4 equals x. So that tells me that at 4 hours, the prices would be the same. Right? So 5 times 4 is 20 plus 30, that would be $50 here. 9 times 4 is 36, plus 14 would be 50 hours there. So that's how I know that at 4 hours the prices would be the same. All right, number 6, the distance f of x of a football in feet after it is thrown by the quarterback is given by this function, where x represents the time the football was in the air. Find the function of 8. Okay, so remember, this is just a fancy way of saying y equals this. Okay, so this is a fancy way of saying, what if we put 8 in for x? So I'm going to put 8 in for all of these x's, and that will tell me what the solution is. So I'm going to say -2 times the quantity 8 squared plus 32 times 8 plus 15. So -2 times 64, because remember we do exponents first, plus, hold on, let's see, what is 32 times 8? 256 plus 15. So I'm going to end up with -128 plus 256 plus 15. So I end up with 128 plus 15, which will give me 143. So find the function of 8. So the distance it would go if it was in the air for 8 seconds would be 143 feet. That would be my answer. Okay. Next question, we have one of these cool graphs. We're finding the domain and the range. The domain, remember, is all of the x values. Range is all the possible y values. So the domain for this, because it has the arrows, is going to continue in these directions and just keep spreading out all of the x values. So the domain is all real values. Right? Every x value will work. The range is only everything above its lowest or below its highest if it had a peak. So because it has a dip, it's going to be y is greater than or equal to 4. So everything, -4. Everything above -4 is a potential value for this. Because we have a dip, that's a minimum, right? So my minimum value is y equals -4 because it dips. If it happened to be a peak, then I would have a maximum, and it would still be y equals, and then whatever that maximum was. Okay. Number 8, we're just solving equations here. So what I would do for this one is I would clear the fractions. I would multiply everything times 12, because that would be my common denominator. So 12x divided by 2 is 6x, 12x divided by 6 is 2x, and 12 times 7 divided by 12 is 7. So then I would get 8x equals 7, x equals 7/8. That would be my answer there. For number 9, I have variables on both sides, so I would subtract the 1.2x from both sides, and I'm going to have 2.05x minus 6 equals 3.14. Add 6 to both sides. You guys know I hate decimals, but if there's a decimal in the question, there can be decimals in the answer. So now I have 2.05x equals 9.14. Let's see what's the weird number I get now. 9.14 divided by 2.05. Cool. So x is going to be about 4.46 because I would have to round up. Let me see something really quick. Yep, it's just a weird number. Okay, for number 10, I have a denominator again. I'm going to clear that by multiplying everything times that 2 because that's the only denominator. So I'm going to have 8 minus x equals negative 10. Subtract 8 from both sides. Negative x equals negative 18. Divide by negative 1 because I can't have a negative variable. X equals 18. Okay. Number 11, I distribute on both sides. I'm going to get 12x minus 15 equals 5x plus 35. I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. 7x minus 15 equals 35. Add 15 to both sides. 7x equals 50. Divide by 7. X equals 50 over 7. Again, not a pretty number, but it works. Okay, number 12. There's that secret 1 hiding there, so I have to distribute that secret 1. So then I get 2 equals negative 9 plus 5x minus x minus 3, because when I distribute that negative 1, that turns these into negatives. So now I'm going to have 2. I have some like terms. I'm going to have 2 equals negative 12 plus 4x, because 5x minus x is 4x. Add 12 to both sides. 14 equals 4x. Divide by 4. So I'm going to get 7 over 2 equals x because I simplified the 14 over 4. Number 13, we're still trying to solve for x. So I'm just going to add by to both sides. And I have ax equals c plus by. Divide by a. X equals c plus by divided by a. It's one of those fun literal equations. We just use our inverse operations and we rearrange it until we get x by itself. Number 14, I'm going to distribute this negative 3. 5x minus 6x minus 21 equals 6x minus 7x plus 2. 5x minus 6x is negative 1x minus 21 equals 6 minus 7x, negative 1x plus 2. If I add the 1x to both sides, these are gone. Negative 21 does not equal 2, so this would be no solution. Okay. And then number 15, when I distribute all the values, I get 6x plus 6 equals 6x plus 6. These right here are identical. That should be your signal that it's going to be infinitely many solutions. Okay, that's going to be part 1 of the answer key, questions 1 through 15.